Hello, and welcome to Positive Psychology Coaching here at Positive Relations Media. I am Ali Macedon, a certified positive psychology coach and trauma-informed breathwork facilitator. And today we are going to talk about the 3 dimensions of happiness and how you can use them daily to build a thriving life. So we are going to uncover the 3 lives that have been given to us by pretty much the founder of positive psychology, Martin Seligman. And he shows us that we can really break these 3 lives down into the pleasant life, the good life, and a meaningful life. So by the end of today's video, I want you to be more aware of these 3 different areas of your life and sort of which area are you engaging with and when is that coming up for you. So as a brief overview, a pleasant life is when we are experiencing positive emotions. So if you've watched one of our recent videos released here on the website, then you know that there are 6 pillars to positive psychology. And one of them is positive emotions. And in fact, these 3 lives that we're going to talk about, they all correlate with one of those, one of the pillars of positive psychology. So the pleasant life really correlates with experiencing positive emotions. We're going to dive into that. Then we can look at the good life, which really involves engagement. And how are we engaging with our lives? And we're going to dive into that as well. And then the meaningful life, which involves the positive psychology pillar of meaning, which has a lot to do with our purpose in this world, our purpose today, our purpose in this moment. And so let's break those down. Let's take a look at each of these 3 lives or these 3 dimensions of happiness. So the pleasant life involves savoring and appreciating basic pleasures such as companionship, nature, our bodily needs, right? Experiencing, good food, for example, or cleanliness, right? So things our body needs that make us feel good. These positive emotions are experienced here in the pleasant life. So they're short-lived, right? When we get clean, we need to do it again. It's a short-lived thing. So these pleasurable things, when we have a bite of that ice cream, eventually that pleasure goes away. So the pleasant life is a short-lived. It's comfortable. It's safe. It's familiar. And in fact, research shows us that 15 to 20% of our positive emotions are actually heritable. We can do these tips and tricks. We can modify the emotions that we're feeling. We can smile, we can giggle, we can be jolly, and that impacts the positive emotions that we will be experiencing. And when I think of the pleasant life, I think of a lot of like habituation, right? So these habits that we have that we keep returning to because it's comfortable, it's safe, it's familiar, and it feels good, right? So even though it is short-lived, there is a place for the pleasant life in this world. It has a lot to do with earlier stages of development in our human being lives as humans. And it also has a lot to do with motivation and also self-esteem, right? We get a lot of self-esteem from, these positive emotions. Okay. So it's important, but it is short-lived. So the next life after the pleasant life is the good life. It's discerning and discovering your unique virtues and your strengths. And when I think of positive psychology and the science, I really think of that's a big part of what it is. It's discovering what are you good at naturally? What are your virtues? What are your strengths? So again, looking at modern theories of self-esteem, it tells us that life is only genuinely satisfying if we discover value within ourselves. So it's super important to get to know who you are and what you are naturally good at so that you can express your value, you can experience your value. And what happens when we do that is we find ourselves in flow. We find ourselves in that. Have you ever been in flow, right? Where it's like time just kind of slows down, or maybe it speeds up, and you're so engrossed in that thing that you're doing. You're so engaged, you're so focused that you're just like in the rhythm, you're in the flow. Nothing can kind of throw you off. It's like that perfect balance between being bored and being overwhelmed. It's like right there in that sweet spot where you're facing these challenges, yet you're overcoming them because you're using your strengths and what you're good at. And there are the challenges, but it's not overwhelming. And you rise to the occasion. You're fully engaged here in the good life. So this is the good life. Then we have the meaningful life. The meaningful life is like involving having a sense of meaning and purpose. So it's not only knowing what your natural strengths are, but also developing them and applying them for a purpose that's greater than yourself. So here you are in the good life, learning who you are, and then enhancing that into a meaningful life by applying who you are and what you're good at to something that's in service or affecting or impacting something or somebody beyond just yourself. So this gives us purpose. This gives us a sense of gratification. And gratification versus pleasure. This is another thing I want you to be aware of, is when are you doing something that feels gratifying versus something that feels pleasurable? So remember, pleasures are short-lived. Gratification is much longer lived. It is much deeper sense of satisfaction. It's knowing that you are creating a positive impact on somebody else or for the world or for something or someone or somewhere that is beyond just yourself. It could be philanthropic. It could be really simple, right? But it's that deeper sense of gratification, right? So that is the meaningful life. So here can be a question, right? Like, what do these three lives, how do these three lives contribute to our life satisfaction? How are these actually contributing to how fulfilled I am feeling in my life? Well, life satisfaction, we know, is increased when we experience the meaningful life and the engaged life, along with health and productivity. This is what the research shows us, right? So again, looking at your meaningful life and your engaged life, or maybe we could reverse as the engaged life and the meaningful life. This is what has a big impact on our life satisfaction. So if you are sitting here watching this video today and you're feeling like, I don't know, how are you feeling? Check in with yourself. How are you feeling with your life satisfaction? Do you feel really fulfilled? Do you feel like, okay? Do you feel phenomenal? Like, where would you kind of gauge your satisfaction with your life on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say? If you want to improve that number, then the invitation is to use what the science is showing us and apply it, which is, how can you create more engagement with your life, with the things that you're doing, whether it's walking to the mailbox to get the mail, or showing up at your workplace, or showing up in your relationships? How can you be more engaged with that? And how can you apply that to something beyond just yourself, right? So if we think of engagement again, the engaged life is really knowing who you are and what you're good at. And then the meaningful life is taking those who you are and the skills and the natural characteristics that you have, your innate values of who you are as a person, and take that and apply it to something bigger than just yourself. And so that's what's going to give us the life satisfaction. And just FYI, the pleasurable life, right, is actually scientifically, it's been shown to contribute marginally to our life satisfaction. So while it is positive emotions or the pleasurable life, while that is an important part to our overall well-being, and our development as people in this world, to have those positive experiences, it's not actually the tipping point that's going to make our lives fulfilling and satisfying. But it is kind of the cherry on top, isn't it? Sometimes literally, it's the cherry that gives us those positive emotions. And what happens is we create this upward spiral, is what it's called. So we have these positive emotions. We're crafting our day. We're showing up to do the things that make us feel good so that we can create that upward spiral and really start to learn who we are as an individual in that engaged life, and then upward spiral, continuing into the meaningful life, sharing who we are with the world and contributing to something larger than just ourselves. So your homework, I'm going to give you some homework, okay, if you accept the invitation, because it's all about taking action, right? We can listen to all the books, we can read all the books, listen to the podcast, listen to the audiobooks, whatever. But if we aren't actually putting things into action, then the journey is long, maybe even stagnant. So my invitation to you is, I want you to start to get to know yourself. What are you naturally good at? What are your strengths and your virtues and your talents? And I want you to start as also, I'm going to give you a resource to do that. I'm going to give you 2 resources to do that. And I also want you to notice in your everyday, whether you're engaging in the pleasant life, the good life, or the meaningful life. Just be aware. Okay. Bonus points if you want to actually, at the end of the day, just tally like, oh, I definitely experienced the pleasant life, this, temporary satisfactions a few times today. And just tally, columns, pleasant life, engaged life, meaningful life, and just be aware. Okay. Just be aware. Now, here we go. The 2 resources that I want you to check out in order to get to know who you are, what you're naturally good at, and what your values are really, and who you are as a person, are the VIA character strengths. It's called VIA, as in values in action. And this is going to tell you, I'm going to put the link. I'm going to see if we can drop a link in this resource on where you're watching the video. But the website is www.viaCharacter.org/survey/pro, as in PRO, /Coach Ali, ALI, /account/register. And that is just a quick assessment of what are some of your top values, and as a person, how are you living your values? So some of my top values, just to give you an example, are love of learning, and positivity. So these are some of my top values, and this is me getting to know who I am, and how can I incorporate learning into my everyday, because I know that that's important to me. How can I incorporate positivity into my everyday, because I know that that's going to make me feel good, and that's going to, give me the engaged life. Okay. So VIA character strengths is the first resource I have for you. And the other is the Gallup's Strength Finder. The Gallup's Strength Finder, it's a paid thing. It's a paid resource, whereas the VIA character is free. But the Gallup's Strength Finder is actually an assessment of your strengths, specifically in the workplace. But I do find that it's helpful in other areas of our lives to get to know what we're really good at. So I wanted to share that with you as well. It's the Gallup's Strength Finder, and you can, it's also known as Clifton Strengths, but you can find that assessment there on their website at www.gallup.com. All right. That should do it. If you have any additional time, I guess just sit with this, and I hope that this has been helpful for you. And until next time, I'll see you then.